both the depth and the speed of growth across the world is increasing. So it's not just China and India that are going to grow, but sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, Latin America. This is essentially the process by which everyone tries to catch up with American standards of living. That's what we see around the world. Now, strengths and weaknesses, I think broadly, again, as Larry was painting, I think the strength in Europe and the United States is very much going to be based on intellectual capital. For some time in India and China, it's still going to be based on cheap labor and kind of in between in other parts of the world. In Africa, there's a kind of a commodity-based story that people tell, but of course commodities can be a mixed blessing because on the one hand, commodity prices go up, but that also means that a lot of wealth gets concentrated in the hands of very few people, usually governments, and that creates a lot of corruption, a lot of rent-seeking, and a lot of conflict. And frankly, what's happened in many, many commodities, and we see that now in the Middle East as well, that these concentrations of wealth in the hands of government have actually prevented political reform and economic progress and private sector progress. So it's not as if everything is going to be hunky-dory around the world. I think it's going to be very mixed, uneven, but broadly one can paint a picture of general prosperity rising. There's one point I would like to make, in terms of the strengths and weaknesses of the U.S. economy, right? Yeah. I think there is no doubt that the U.S. is going to continue to be a fountain of creativity. It's got the software for development, which in a way that's unique. The problem, I think, for the U.S., I think the U.S. has two big problems. One, I think, is what Peter referred to, which is the fiscal, the entitlement problem. It's very complicated. Many of you know this better than I do. But I think an underappreciated problem in the United States, again, which Peter kind of alluded to, is what I call the economic problem, the structural problem. And there's a very nice metaphor that Larry Katz, a professor of Harvard, how he describes this. He says the United States is like an apartment block that 20 years ago was the envy of the neighborhood. Today, the penthouses are growing bigger and bigger. The middle floors are getting squeezed, and the basement is flooded. And above all, the elevator from the basement to the upper floors has broken down. So this whole hollowing out of the middle, where will average middle class, median income has stagnated, job opportunities are looking threatened because of the rise of these emerging market countries. Now, it's not, I think we have to be careful here. Growth around the world is not a zero-sum game. Growth creates opportunities for everyone.